Welcome to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. I'm sure you know how we roll this season, but if you're new to the show, it is winner stays on. Only the most profitable handicapper on the week will be invited back for the following show. If they lose the challenge, they're to the back of the queue and they don't get paid until they are back on. There is real jeopardy, therefore, for our tipsters this season. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, while senior handicapper Steve Wyss is also with me to give us his picks and assess the selections from our challengers who'll go head-to-head. Steve, glad to be back to club football after the international break. All seems to come up very quickly after the start of the European seasons.
I'm really glad that club football's back. I didn't have a great time over the international break, Dan. I went, I think, 2 and 4 on my selections on the Bet Rivers shows. Don't even mention Armenia to me again. You know, I was even having missed penalties against me and everything like that. So, yeah, international football. I love it. I actually love international football. I love the tournaments with the qualifying events and not always my cup of tea. So I'm really pleased that domestic club football's back at the high levels.
Head-to-head this week for the challenge. We have got defending champion, top American handicapper RJ, who needed a late double from Benjamin Šeško to cash an overs bet in Leipzig's winner Union Berlin to claim the title from professional bettor Will White. RJ, you left it late a fortnight ago. 2 goals, what, in the last 6 minutes or so got you the title?
Yeah, that's correct. That was a bit of a sweat, but came through. I owe that gentleman a beer if I ever see him. I likely won't, but if he hears this or sees this some way down the line, a beer's on me. But yeah, it was tough. And you know, I think I've seen a lot of late goals, and thankful for a bit of extra time there, right, to push that over the top. But yeah, it's great to be back. Glad international break is over. I took a complete break, to be honest. I went on a little holiday, as you call it, a little vacation, and I'm ready to go. Back at it.
Where'd you go?
I went to Nashville.
Oh, right. Okay. Lovely.
Yep. Yep.
Did what, playing a bit of guitar and that sort of thing? Or just
watching?
A
little bit. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Incidentally, shout out to footballbetblog.nl, who highlighted Šeško as well when we put our selections up for the international break, because he did cash for followers. I know he's got a new blog up there as well. So he's one of my 113 followers. So I thought I'd just give him a shout out via Twitter. So it is RJ versus Ruairidh Barlow, Spanish football journalist and editor of Football España. Rory was our loser on match day 1. Definitely not bitter, even though, Rory, you did message me earlier this week, still talking about how Barcelona should have been given a penalty in the Getafe game. But apparently it's something that the Spanish FA, who are getting used to apologising a lot these days, apologised for. Rory, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. That was the early days of Spanish apologies from the Federation. I'm sure they'd be delighted to be back onto refereeing controversy next week, which they may well do, because they do have quite a habit of messing up, for want of a better word, some of the decisions and VAR. But yeah, back fresh, looking forward to the show. And yeah, it's good to be back on with you all.
Now, quick thought from all of you when it comes to players coming back from international duty and therefore teams. I looked at just a couple of English Premier League teams earlier. Man United had 14 players away. Spurs had 13. I think 11 players played, got minutes. I mean, when you're looking at teams who have had an awful lot of players out and teams that maybe have had 2 or 3 or 4 starters playing, say, South American qualifiers, have come back late. Do you look at those clubs and think, I'm just going to not go near them? Or is there an angle? Get your thoughts on that one. Steve, you first.
I personally believe this is the hardest weekend of perhaps the whole season to predict. And you will often find some really random results this round, because you've got the combination of players being all over the world from international duty, in combination with we just had a massive transfer window end. So we've had players going in and out of clubs, and you got this concoction and put it together, and I think it can really lead to trouble for bettors if you're not careful. This weekend especially, we are going to see things this particular weekend across the whole of Europe, across the whole of the world. And I can guarantee you there'll be some results, and we'll be like, where on earth did they get that performance from? Team X have suddenly changed from this system to that system there. You know, a team that suddenly looked really good before that international window suddenly looks terrible randomly. This is really choppy waters this round. Dan. And I think you've got to, if you've got the information, you can find out stuff about international players, how much they've played, the traveling. Yeah, it's all great. But my general word of advice for anyone listening or watching is absolutely tread carefully. Maybe even reduce your stakes a little bit this weekend. I think it's even harder than, say, after a winter break.
RJ, the calendar can be challenging for teams, players, as well as bettors. Obviously, we've got the Champions League coming up, of course, next week as well. The group stage is kicking off. What are your thoughts about this particular match week?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. It's very challenging. You have, players traveling extra, right? So there's that added travel, there's added fatigue from the matches they played in, and then just right back into it. And then some teams in the Champions League shortly after this match week. So it's extremely challenging. It definitely adds fatigue to lineups. There's probably going to be a little bit of rotation this weekend, especially teams going into the Champions League next week. And then you got to look at injuries too that happen in the international break. I, fortunately or unfortunately, have a play that we'll talk about shortly where there was some serious injuries affecting a team, and I don't typically base my selections on or worry about players necessarily that were in the international break, because obviously there's other players I think that can contribute, but it does have an impact. And like Steve said, I would consider lowering the stake this weekend, especially with just the added dynamic here.
Rory, obviously Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atleti as well. I can imagine that the training grounds are pretty empty. I mean, even when you go down to 21s and 19s and 17s, the whole squad, the whole academy is going to be away playing some sort of international players. Is it a good time to get with the lesser lights that perhaps haven't got the amount of players on international duty? Is it a thing in Spain? How do you approach it?
Yeah, very much a thing in Spain. In fact, they call it the FIFA virus whenever they go away and they come back, especially around this time of year, because, you tend to get players go down. You tend to get fatigue, players getting injured kind of early on in these games. They've not quite come back and got into the dynamic or their usual kind of fitness patterns. And for Real Madrid and Barcelona, like you say, it is like a huge factor for them. Quite often, as you say, you'll have kind of B teams and the first team combined. You'll have 6-7 youngsters in training for the last couple of weeks. But especially this weekend, you look at Barcelona and Real Madrid, they face Real Betis and Real Sociedad, who are no mugs. These are teams that are competing for the Champions League places every year now. So yeah, they've got a hard one to come back to. Atleti as well, Rodrigo de Paul looks like he might have a wee bit of a niggle coming back from Argentina, and he's just been in La Paz, 3,000 feet above sea level, kind of bursting for air, trying to suck in the big ones against Bolivia. So yeah, it does have a major impact, certainly in Spain at least.
So take all that into consideration when you're playing this weekend across the European leagues. This is the European show. It is, of course, head-to-head. Rules are simple. 2 picks from our challenges. Whoever makes the most profit with their picks stays on for next week's head-to-head battle. If the profit or the loss is the same, then Nigel Seeley will decide who got the bad beat and declare a winner. RJ is our defending champion, so gets to go first. 9:30 a.m. Eastern Saturday for Leipzig against Augsburg, where we go first. Leipzig have drifted a little bit. They're still very, very short price favourites. The minus 455 with Augsburg plus 1,100 and the draw plus 575. You went with Leipzig for goals last time, RJ, got you the title. You are going in again here. However, more goals are needed. Explain the first pick for us.
Yeah, so looking at over 3.5 at minus 105 here. Obviously, Leipzig will be hoping that international break hasn't, changed their form. Although, coming up big wins against Stuttgart, Union Berlin in the last 2 weeks. International break has not been friendly to them. As I kind of hinted to in the beginning here, Dani Olmo picked up a knee injury while playing for Spain. I think he's going to be out at least a few weeks. And then they also lost captain Willy Orban for 10 weeks or around 10 weeks, with both of them picking up knee injuries. So those 2 big blows, especially seeing Olmo netted 5 goals in 4 matches so far to start the year for Leipzig. So it's bad news for Leipzig. I still think they have plenty of talent around to find the back of the net. I mean, they're loaded with talent, in my opinion. I picked them to finish top 3 outside of Bayern in the future show. So obviously that's good news for Augsburg, who are winless in their last 13 head-to-heads, and they've conceded 27 goals in that process. I don't typically rely on the last 4 or 5 years to me, but it's just something to note. And obviously, the fan pressure is behind them, right? They have to get some points here. They need to grow together. The injuries Leipzig are facing, with a desperate Augsburg side, set up, in my opinion, for an open goal-friendly type of match. Leipzig has seen 14 goals in their first 3 matches. Augsburg have seen 16 in their first 3 matches combined, that is, for and against. And looking ahead to Leipzig play the Young Boys on Tuesday in the Champions League. So there's that at stake as well. So they're down a couple heavy hitters, we'll call them. They have Champions League to look ahead to. Xavi Simons is probably going to be the guy to step up, in my opinion, for Leipzig. I mean, it's fairly, one could assume that. He's been playing very well. And Leipzig have scored at least 2 goals in their last 8 matches, while Augsburg have conceded at least twice in their last 6 consecutive Bundesliga matches. So it's a bit of a risk. Maybe this line might drift down a little bit because of these notable injuries to over 3.25. But at the time of this recording and where we stand, I still like the look of goals, even with injuries, international break, Champions League, all that. It's one of my favorite plays. And to be fair, I didn't like too many plays this weekend in the top leagues.
Over 3.5 goals. It has just been nudged out to even money, incidentally. If you've been backing over 2.5 in Leipzig's games over the course of last season and this, you're in profit to the tune of 5 points to level stakes, and over 3.5 this season to just shy of 2 points, 2 from 3 so far. Steve, what's your thoughts on this one? Leipzig got RJ out of jail and indeed the title last time out. Can they push the boat out and get 4 or more in their game against Augsburg combined?
Yeah, I've been having a look at this match in detail, and RJ's actually surprised me a bit by taking this pick. This is not a typical RJ pick. He's an overs man, but typically he's not someone who goes much higher than the 3.25 goal line since I've known RJ. And I think I would have been all over this pick before the international break. But as RJ said, the Olmo injury is bad news. He's looked brilliant, hasn't he? I think it just suits him perfectly. It's a massive blow for them this month. They've got some big fixtures. As you said there, Dan, as RJ said, they're away against Young Boys in midweek Champions League. The Orban injury as well. They've had tons of players on international duty. Absolutely tons. I think we might get a bit of a disjointed Leipzig performance here. I like Augsburg +2 Asian handicap in this game. I think that's a pretty good bet. I think they can keep it close. Worth noting that Leipzig have had a massive expected goals over achievement this season, nearly a 5-goal overachievement already, although they do have some great individual players. Ooh, it's a touch and go one, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't get me betting unders in either of these teams' games. I'll say that. You wouldn't get me betting unders full stop either. But there's certainly some danger signs. And I do wonder, if you think Leipzig are going to have a good win here, would taking their team total over 2.5 goals at -130 be something to consider? And if you like Augsburg to contribute, then you could even take them at -143 just to score a goal. So there's options for the bettors here. But as I said at the start of the show, it's a dangerous round for all bettors.
We're going over 3.5. That's RJ's pick. Let's get Rory's first pick on the board. We go to Spain, naturally. Valencia, Atletico, Madrid. A little bit of price moving here as well. Atleti were backed in yesterday. Have drifted out again today. They're +104, shade over even money at the moment. Valencia +300. Atleti, we've sort of danced around saying that they're dark horses for the title. They've started well. They're +900 for La Liga. Rory, they put 7 past Real last time out. I mean, Diego Simeone has been furious with his team scoring 7 last time out. What's going on there? Probably kept them behind for defensive
We don't
training.
talk about that game on here, Dan, after my selection.
That's true. Don't mention it to Steve. Rory, talk us through this one. What's the pick?
Yeah, I've gone pretty straight down the middle. Just Atleti to win. It was +102 when I backed it, +104 now, as you say. And to be honest, I'm pretty astounded that they're anything near even money, because if you look at the two teams on paper, just in terms of pure quality, there's an absolute gulf in class here. If you look at what they've put on paper so far in terms of performances, I think there's a gulf too. I mean, Atleti dropped points away to Betis 0-0. It was a tough game. They probably could have nicked that one as well, but Betis is a tough place to go. You don't just kind of waltz in there and get results. You look at Valencia, they started off pretty well. They did punch Sevilla in the mouth. They beat them 2-1 away from home, and they got a second victory. But dropping points to Osasuna, they lost to Osasuna at home. It was a late kind of winner for them, but they also lost away to Alaves, and that one really informs this pick for me as well, because Valencia are a side that at Mestalla, at home, which they are in this game, they can cause trouble for any side, particularly the kind of raucous atmosphere. This is a club that now, even though there's trouble with the ownership, I think they're very much behind Rubén Baraja, who saved them from relegation last season. They've got a lot of young players, a young, talented squad, but you look at Atleti, and they're just too good for them, in my view. And as I say, I was shocked that they're coming in from kind of an even money perspective. You look at Atleti kind of had their game cancelled against Sevilla last time out. It was rained off. So that international break, that impact that has, I think it'll be a little bit less for Atleti, because their players have had an extra week's rest from everyone else. So they'll be coming back into it a little bit fresher. And I just think there's a good vibe around Atleti right now. I think they're confident. Alvaro Morata scoring hat-tricks for Spain. So even though we kind of have an extra glass of skepticism whenever he's kind of involved, he's maybe not a bad pick to look at. And I was kind of had my mind palace worrying over this one. I was looking at +1 over 1.5 as well, +143 when I was looking at it. That's a pretty good price as well. I think Atleti will probably be good for 2 goals, but played it a little bit safer with just Atleti straight down the middle, +102 or +104, sorry.
That's the pick from Rory. It's a 10:15 a.m. kickoff Eastern time. Atleti to beat Valencia. Atleti have won 5 of the last 6 meetings. Steve, what's your thoughts on this one? We were speaking off air earlier today, and it's difficult to get away wins on the ball, but this one to me looks pretty solid.
I think it's quite hard to argue, because I think a fairer price would probably be around -125 on Athletic Madrid here. So it's just a question. I mean, they haven't played for a while, have they? Because their most recent match got postponed. So there's certainly not much of a form book as such. Obviously, there's players that have been involved internationally. Valencia got off to a hot start, but then they've kind of faded a little bit. There's a ridiculous head-to-head here, by the way. Valencia have not beaten Atletico Madrid in their last 16 La Liga matches. How is that even possible? I mean, these two... I mean, Valencia have been quite good in that period as well, by the way, as well. They're not just bad. So it's obviously a fixture Atletico Madrid like to get themselves up for whatever reason. They've 2 of their last 3 wins at this stadium have been by 1-0 margin. And, you know, you wouldn't put them past winning by that exact score again, would you, knowing this manager, knowing the way they play. But one thing I will say is, after I completely got embarrassed by them in that pick, in that Real Vallecano match, I am taking them very, very seriously this season. I mean, that is not Atletico Madrid sort of win, is it? So this is a plus money on the visitors here. You know, it does look good. I'm not a big fan of backing away teams on, you know, as a favourite too often, but they may well challenge for the title this season. Who knows?
Now then. Each week, Steve picks out a lively plus money selection across the European leagues. Steve, you sided against Hoffenheim a fortnight ago, but this time you are playing Hoffenheim. It is your pick away at Koln, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Saturday kickoff. Talk us through your hot dog.
Well, yeah, Hoffenheim did my dough in with them last time, but fair play to them. They put up a good performance against Wolfsburg, which I think that's quite a good win, because Wolfsburg have been in terrific form themselves to start this season off with. With Hoffenheim, you know they've got goals in them. They will concede goals as well, but offensively, for me, they're much better than Koln. And we said in the outright show, I'm glad RJ is here actually, because I'm sure he's been keeping tabs on Koln. I think they're very, very opposable, because I don't think they've got many goals in them, Dan. They've netted just twice so far. They've got the lowest XG in the Bundesliga of any team, 3.09 in 3 games. That's really, really low for German Bundesliga standards. So to use the old phrase, that they are toothless in attack. It may only take one goal to beat them. And I'm surprised that Hoffenheim are the clear underdog here at plus 190 with Bet
They're
Rivers.
drifting, yeah. They're plus 205 now.
I mean, I don't know if there's some team news that's come in late recently that's making a difference here, but I am very happy to be betting against Koln in home or away at the moment, especially at home where fans get frustrated, don't they? If you're not scoring goals. Hoffenheim have definitely got the better offense in here. So it just looked more of a pick'em game. It should be draw no bet each. Maybe even Hoffenheim the slight favourites, because I got a gut feeling that RJ's relegation bet on Koln might well have some legs, this season. He's on at a big price. And so far, we haven't seen much to suggest they're going to be very good this season. So very, very much worth opposable at plus 190 on the nose here for Hoffenheim, a much more confident team against a side that struggles to score goals down.
Good stuff. That's the plus money lively outsider that Steve likes when it comes to this weekend's European leagues. Let's get to RJ's second pick for the challenge. We go Sunday 2:45 p.m. Lyon against Le Havre. Lyon are favourites here. Laurent Blanc's departed. They've had a shocking start to the season. RJ, you've got manager incoming news for us, but a new coach that's not going to be in the dugout at the weekend. Talk us through your play here.
Yes, Dan, thank you. Lyon versus Le Havre, over 2.75 goals at minus 113. I certainly picked two plays that has quite a bit of uniqueness behind them. I will say that. So if you're shying away from risk, these plays are a little bit challenging, but I think the best thing that could have happened to Lyon was the international break, right? Bottom of the Ligue 1 table, extremely hungry for points. In fact, just 1 point in their first 4 matches, 3 goals, 4, and a league high 10 allowed. They faced Le Havre, who have been pretty strong scoring, 2 in each of their away matches so far against Rennes and Montpellier. Lacazette will be returning to the lineup from his red card that he had against I think 3 matches ago now. And news around Lyon. So as of last night, according to Fabrizio Romano, Lyon are set, and it's already been approved. They're set to appoint Fabio Grosso as the new manager. For those who don't know, Fabio Grosso was the coach of Frosinone over the last year, who promoted them from Serie B to Serie A in the Italian top division. So he was also a Brescia manager back in 2007, 2009. So, despite promoting them, he left the club over this last season. He's going to be announced next Monday. He's going to be in the stands over the weekend for their match. I think, he's got a tall task ahead of him. I think he's probably, we talked about this a little bit before the show. I think anytime you bring in a new coach, you get the different vibe, right? The team gets maybe a little bit more amped up. You want to play stronger for this new coach. Maybe they're just set in their ways with the previous coach, and this is what they needed, right? Because typically this side isn't this poor. I mean, having Lacazette back is going to be a help for them. They have the talent. They're pretty deep, and I think I like both teams to score here, right? I looked at that. The price was too low, but I expect Le Havre to get on the board. I could see it. I could see them winning this match 2-1, to be fair. Maybe even a 2-2 type match, but over 2.75 at minus 113 stood out to me. And even with the coaching carousel that's happening, I'm still looking at the away side to contribute.
Oh, I love that phrase, coaching carousel. And new manager bounce, is it a thing, Steve? Roy, get Rory's thoughts first on that one, and we'll get Steve's reaction to the play and his thoughts on a new manager bounce. This is going to come up all season, every other weekend. I mean, if you're betting a team, they've got a new coach, is it a tick in the right box, or doesn't it matter?
I think you have to be kind of aware what you're betting on, what you're looking at, which team and how the manager has left. But generally, I would say there is a bounce. Generally, things are going wrong if the manager's gone and the team is pretty annoyed, unhappy. People are frustrated. New coach comes in. You've got a new boss. You don't know if he's unbearable or you don't know if he's great. So you're happy to play nice. You work as hard as you can. You do everything you can to impress him. So, yeah, I do think new boss is always a good route to follow down. provided there's not kind of a catch in the tail somewhere where the boss has been taken out for reasons that aren't quite footballing.
I wonder if we've got a new boss instead of Nigel Seeley, whether we'd all have a little bit of a bounce. Let's not ask Nigel that. Steve. New manager bounce, is it a thing or is it not a thing? Or what do you make of RJ's pick?
New manager bounce is, I think, a very individual thing. Certain clubs it works, certain clubs it doesn't work. Often just forget the new manager. It's like the old manager's gone. Now, right now, and me and RJ were in discussion off air, we've got a coaching trio taking charge of Lyon this weekend. Jérémy Bréchet, Jean-François Villet, and Sonny Anderson. So for those who...
the old Brazilian striker.
Yeah. I thought you might remember that one, Dan. So that was... And I think what they've done there is certainly at least one club legend who might just rile the fans up again, because the last time at home, of course, everyone's seen this on Twitter, everywhere, the Lyon fans got a good dressing down. The Lyon players got a good dressing down from their own fans. Humiliation. So they're going to want to respond here, Lyon. But I just don't know. I don't have a clue which version of them are going to show up. So in terms of the bet, we over 2.75 goals here, RJ?
Over 2.75, yep.
That's the bet, isn't it? So if the Lyon we've seen in the first few rounds shows up, that's going to cover easily. Le Havre last year were under Central in Ligue 2. 15 out of 19 away games were under 2.5. They only conceded 10 goals on the road. So far this year, Liga offenses have found them out a bit. But I do wonder if in that international break, whether the manager Luca Esner might have worked on that defence. He won't be happy conceding so many goals, even though they did have a clean sheet last time out. I think the away side could get a result here. Plus 0.75 handicaps are one to consider. Even Le Havre on the nose at 4-1. You could do worse. So I don't know. I mean, this could end anything, really, couldn't it? Just depends how Lyon respond to this manager bounce. But they haven't defended well, so I think there's a good case for the overs, really.
Over 2.75 goals at minus 113 for RJ for the second pick. Rory, your second pick. We're back to Spain. Granada, Girona. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff Eastern on Monday. Thanks for making scheduling the show easy again for us, Rory. So we've got to wait till Monday night European time to find out who's going to be on the show on Thursday. So appreciate that. What's the pick here? I mean, Girona have started really well, haven't they? I mean, we know they're a feeder club, part of the Man City group, but they've started really well. One of 5 unbeaten teams in La Liga. What's the play here?
Yeah, I like a bit of suspense on my Monday, Dan. So I'm hoping I at least make it to the Monday with all things going well. But I've gone Girona. They're second in the table. They're going very well. Girona to win or draw, plus over 1.5 goals. That was at minus 124 when I was looking at. Incidentally, and I think my kind of reasoning behind this will kind of inform this maybe slight lean. Over 2.5 comes back at plus 200, which was something that I really, really liked the look of, but went a little bit safer. Granada have conceded 12 in their 4 games so far. They've scored 7. There's been a lot of goals in their games. They're lacking a little bit of a finisher, but still managing to score goals. They've got a couple of good creative players, but Ryan Zaragoza is a really interesting kind of live wire, tiny wee attacker. He likes to go at defenses. So they are creating chances. But with Granada, so far, the problem has been a bit of short blanket syndrome. They're going forward and scoring goals. They're generally not covering themselves at the back. And if they are covering themselves at the back, they're generally struggling up front. So I think Girona are a better team. They're comfortable. I think I was speaking on a different podcast and I was saying, if there's
one team,
punting myself out here. But if there's one team that's playing the closest thing to total football in Spain right now, it is Girona, because they're all so comfortable on the ball. They don't mind switching positions. They don't mind rotating around. 3 wins and a draw from them. The teams that they played, Getafe, can be a tough pill to swallow. Real Sociedad, Sevilla, not bad sides, and they beat Las Palmas last weekend as well. So I just think Girona are slightly adjusting a little bit. They lost Tati Castellanos. He went to Lazio, but they've got Sigankov, who's a really fun player. Savio, young Brazilian winger, has just come in. He looks really pretty interesting as well. Dovbyk, I think there's more to come from him as well. The big Ukrainian striker, you might have seen him in action against England over the international break. But yeah, I think this is just a game for them to play their natural game. And one of the things that really informs this pick for me is the fact that it's Paco Lopez on the Granada bench. Now, Granada over the international break, like you were kind of saying, these teams all have had a little bit of time to work on their defenses, to shore things up a bit. And I think this game will come back to the pack a little bit more in terms of goals. But Paco Lopez has always been an ambitious manager. He's always liked his teams to play, to attack, to go after the other side. And I think he knows that if Granada are going to stay up this season, then at home is where they're going to need to get the most of their points. So it's going to be a fired up Granada, but I think Girona are just too good for them to lose this game outright right now. So yeah, to win or draw over 1.5 goals, I think there will be a few goals in this game. Minus 124 was the pick, Dan.
It's a short one. Might be enough to win the title. Steve, what do you think?
Well, this is where sort of me and Rory have different sort of betting brains, really. This is the same game parlay of the draw double chance and over 1.5 goals. I'm always a little bit more of a simplistic bettor. If it was me, I'd be taking Girona on the 0 end Asian handicap at minus 137 or the minus 0.25. That's plus money, plus 108, because it's a question. The question is, what scorelines do you want on your side? Now, Rory clearly wants the 1-1 draw or the 2-2 draw on his side, rather than the 0-0 or the 0-1 result. But if this ends 0-1, he's going to be fuming with himself, because probably I think he's definitely taking on the right side. At the moment, it's early doors, but Granada do seem like the worst team in LaLiga. I mean, their XGA is the worst. They can't score goals. It's only 4 games in, but it looks worrying for them. So I think he's definitely on the right side here. I expect probably Girona will win the match. It's just one of those. I know what La Liga can get like sometimes. It does have quite a high 0-0 rate compared to some of the other top divisions in Europe. And I just hope for Rory's sake we don't get that 0-1.
You've called it now. You've jinxed
it. That's a thumbs down, I think. Now then, obviously head-to-head challenge forms the main part of our show, but obviously Steve gives his picks as well, and a shout out to Steve ahead of his 2 selections here, because if you've followed Steve so far this season across all of our previous shows, your return on investment is a very impressive 44.63%. So now that Steve has jinxed Rory, I've just jinxed Steve. Steve, give us your 2 best bets this weekend. I'm sure I haven't.
Yeah, it's a tough weekend, isn't it, Dan? I'm not even sure I'm that confident in my own picks because I think these things can go. But I'm starting with Lens against Metz, and I'm going with the home side, Lens, on a minus 1 Asian handicap, minus 113, I think it was the last time I looked. Lens have had a shocking start, just 1 point. They have faced some tough teams, though. Monaco, PSG, Rennes, and Brest away the first week was a bit of a freak match. They were 2 up and they blew it. I don't think Lens has suddenly become that bad overnight, though. They've got a top manager, Frank Ice. And do you know what? Another thing you've got to consider with international breaks is if you give a really top-class head coach or manager, especially the ones that work really well on the training ground or tactics, extra time to work with their players, they'll often come up with a terrific game plan next time up. And they know they really need a result here at Lens. So it's a perfect fixture, really. Metz are not that good, in my opinion. They've lost the first match of the season 5-1 at Rennes. They've come back since then quite well, but they've lost their top scorer, George Mikutadze, who's moved to Ajax, £16 million. They're a promoted side. Lens should show their quality here. 17 wins out of 19 at home last year. Like I say, I think this is a great rebound week for them. They've got a lot to look forward to with the Champions League as well. So I think, there have been a few guys on international duty, but not that many. And this is a great opportunity. I think they'll at least win the game. So minus 1 Asian handicap, 1 goal win would get you a push on that line. So that's my first selection of the week. That's from France Ligue 1. I'm going to La Liga for my second pick. I'm going Sevilla against Las Palmas. And I actually did a voice clipping from week 2 show on Las Palmas, because the same thing applies here. I want to be betting against Las Palmas away from home a lot this season. I've said it before. I don't like any island teams on the road. they're having to travel quite a long way every single time they're on their travels. And Sevilla, they're obviously no points yet, but I think they're they're certainly a top 7, top 8 side in La Liga, aren't they, on paper? And I think taking them on a minus 0.75 Asian handicap here against Las Palmas at home is worth backing. Another thing to consider is decent teams, when they've lost matches early on, they really feel the need and determination to rebound. It's a thing in NFL. If you lose your week 1 game, the top teams often rebound for the second week. RJ will know that. He's hoping the Patriots rebound for in week 2, aren't you, this week?
Sure
RJ?
am.
But I think Sevilla will be... They'll have been hearing in the international break how some would have been slamming them a bit, but they've had a boost. Sergio Ramos is back at the club. I think 25,000 came to watch him just be presented back again. Now, I think that's a huge boost. Everyone's going to be fired up. This is a very winnable fixture against a Las Palmas side, who, whenever I've seen them, technically quite good, but they do like goals. They're a bit toothless as well. I like the minus 0.75 Asian handicap, and I'm just going to explain this handicap. If you win, if Sevilla win by exactly 1 goal, you will win half your stake, half your return. So I think it's important because there is probably a good chance they win by exactly 1 goal here. Probably more than 50% of the time, if they win the game, it will be by 1 goal. 1-0 exactly maybe could come into the equation. I'd much rather take this handicap than the -1 Asian, because you don't want to be sweating your ass off all game for ultimately a push, do you? You want something out of it if they win. So I think Sevilla can rebound here. Big week for them as well. Champions League upcoming. And they've had the international break to sort themselves out a bit. Minus 0.75 Asian handicap against Las Palmas at -127.
Good stuff. Those are the 2 official picks from Steve. We're looking for more profit from our senior handicapper this week. Just before we wrap up, we've got a few leans for you, so we'll rattle through these as quickly as we can. Rory, you've gone to Spain, obviously, and you've gone to that Sevilla game here. You've got to play in this one as well. Slightly bigger odds. Explain your lean. I think Rory could well be on mute. Rory, can you hear me? There we go.
Yeah, I went for Sevilla over 1.5 goals. That's -109. Kind of a lot of the reasons that Steve was saying. I think Sergio Ramos is a huge boost. We mentioned that game that was rained off about Atleti. That was against Sevilla. Sevilla have had their worst start in La Liga ever, I think it was. 3 straight defeats. They are bottom of the table, so they really need a result here. At home to Las Palmas is as good as it gets from their point of view. And I expect them to deliver. The number of goals is obviously up in the air. Las Palmas are, again, a hard side to kind of beat convincingly, because they hang on to the ball a lot. They're pretty well coached. They're just lacking a little bit of quality. But I think when you get into Nervión, which is a kind of area Seville's in, it's warm, it's hot. Sergio Ramos is back. We know that he has a lot of main character energy, and I expect him to be the main character in this match. So yeah, I expect Sevilla to win this. I think it will probably be a few goals involved too.
Is that the team total, Rory?
That's the entire game total. So over
match
1.5
total.
goals, the match total.
Right. Yeah, because the team total for Sevilla for over 1.5 is actually -130, which is not. I think that's not a bad price either, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's got shorter actually, because I think last night it was -120 something. So yeah, it's got even shorter. RJ, you've got a lean for us. We're going to France Sunday for this one. Early start for US bettors, 7 a.m. Which game? What's the pick?
Yeah, I was looking at Lorient versus Monaco in France at over 2.75 goals at -132. Main reason why I omitted this play as an official one was because of the line. The price is a little low. I wanted to stay under 130 for a show play. And honestly, Lorient at home have been pretty strong. They've scored 5 in 2 matches. Monaco on the road have had 12 goals combined in their 2 road matches, 3-3 against Nantes, and they won 4-2 against Clermont. Lorient, welcome back, Benjamin Mendy. Formerly from Man City, so it's pretty big for them, but they're a little bit inconsistent for my liking. So I kind of was somewhat shying away, but I expect this to get over that 2.75 mark simply because of Monaco's style of play and their form to start the season. They haven't had a match that has gone under 3 matches, and I would expect that to continue here against a side who lost, Lorient, who lost 3-0 last time out against Le Havre. So over 2.75.
Over 2.75 goals in the Lorient-Monaco game. Steve, you've got a couple of leans for us. One of them is in that game between Lorient and Monaco on Sunday morning US time.
I like the goals here as well. I think over 2.75 or over 3 could be worth backing. But if you're after an even bigger bit of value, then the Lorient team total is, I think, at plus 190 the last time I checked. Over 1.5 team total goals for Lorient, which is, I think it's a massive price because Monaco away from home have conceded quite a lot of goals this season. I'm still not entirely convinced by them, by the way, full stop. They, I think they've just taken their chances really well, and some opposition teams haven't always played the right sort of style or tactics against them. So it's plus 170 over 1.5 goals for Lorient. They can definitely cover that. And if you do like the goals, you're probably going to need them to net at least once for you anyway in this game. And they beat Lille 4-1 last time out at home with a really good counter-attacking style. So that's a bit of value. And I thought I'd finish the show off with a lean in Serie A. We've got to mention Serie A. Next week, we'll get plenty of talk of that because Daniele Fisichella is back on the show. But Roma-Empoli, Roma on a minus 1.25 Asian handicap, I think plus 103 is the price here. Again, what I've said, a top coach, give them a big international window, especially when the season hasn't started well. Usually they'll rebound, and Roma have had a poor start. They always beat Empoli. They've got an incredibly good head-to-head record here. Empoli are one of the big candidates to go down this season. And if it was Nigel Seeley, he'd be backing them to win to 0 here. But win to 0 is not really my sort of play. So, I mean, the 1-0 is always a danger with Jose Mourinho, but I think minus 1.25 Asian. Roma are going to win the game. They're not going to slip up here, Dan. It's just a question of whether they win by 1 goal or more. And I could see 2-0, 3-0 here. So minus 1.25 Asian handicap on Roma. They look like a pretty good favourite to me in Serie A this weekend.
And that is 2:45 Eastern on Sunday, incidentally, in Serie A. Right, reminder of the head-to-head picks from the boys, and then we'll get Steve's thoughts on who is going to win the challenge this week. RJ, your 2 official picks for the head-to-head challenge defending your title are?
My 2 picks are RB Leipzig versus Augsburg over 3.5 goals at minus 105, and over to France, Lyon versus Le Havre over 2.75 goals at minus 113.
Rory, your 2 picks to try and wrestle the championship.
Yes, Atletico Madrid are pretty good at wrestling. I hope they beat Valencia. That's at plus 104. And Girona to draw or win plus over 1.5 goals at minus 124 away to Granada.
I should say wrestle it from RJ, of course. Steve, if all 4 tips come up, then obviously RJ wins the title, slightly bigger odds, but obviously Rory's gone for the shorter prices. So you can spin that either way. Who's got the best bets for this weekend's head-to-head European Challenge?
This is where I do my prediction, isn't it? And I never get this right. So I've got my coin here. No, not really. If I get this one wrong, I tell you what, look, I think we'll do really well. I think we're going to have some losers on the show this week because it's such a hard week from all of us. It's so hard. I'd love us to go clean sweep and everything. It's just a question of hopefully we've selected the right games where strange things don't happen. I've not got a clue. I'll just say RJ because he's the defending champion. But
yeah,
I ain't got a clue.
Rory, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I owe you a
job.
Steve.
Great
Please.
job.
Steve, have you got one right? I mean, it's not right.
No,
right,
look,
have you got one right?
No, this is becoming a bit of the curse of
it is,
Steve's curse, isn't it?
Well, Nigel wants
right
you to
now.
do this. Thank God he's put it on you rather than me. I think
It'll
it's
be on you
this.
in a minute. It'll be on you next week, Danny. If this keeps happening, because I can predict these football results in Europe, but I can't seem to predict who the hell is going to win this challenge.
I think RJ's over 3.5 Leipzig is the one that's interesting because as RJ's pointed out, they're just missing a bit of attacking talent. I think they'll win. I think it's just will there be 4 goals?
So you don't like that pick?
That would be the one. I can see where RJ's going. That would be the one I would be a little bit nervous about. But you know, Rory's gone for the short prices, so it's easy.
Well, we wish everyone
well
this week, and hopefully we smash it. Like I say, watch out everywhere this weekend. There's going to be some random scores.
Steve, RJ, Rory, thanks for your company. Good luck to everyone. Steve was pointing out, look, we'll be keeping score throughout and we will declare the winner as soon as all the tips are done or when it's mathematically impossible for one to catch another. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European Show. I will be back alongside Steve next week, as will one of RJ or Rory, who will be taking on Daniele Fisichella, who's just gone 3 for 3 on the international show. Incidentally, he's banging form, Daniele. Stay across all the Bet Rivers content this weekend at Because We Win. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.